Hi, welcome to the Carla Knits podcast. This is a podcast where I talk about knitting, crocheting, and all the yarny things that I love. Today is Friday, April 9th, and you are joining me for episode 8. If you have been following along since I started, thank you so much for coming back. And if you are joining me for the first time, thank you so much for stopping by. If you would like to follow me, more of my yarny adventures on Ravelry or Instagram, I am cbcraftygirl in both spots. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. What am I wearing today? This is Simple Hug Cardi by Cozy Up Knits. I made this last, I think, August, September. This was a very fun and fast pattern to make. I was gonna say the recipe. It could be a recipe, a yarn recipe. The pattern calls for DK weight yarn held with lace weight mohair. I used fingering weight yarn held double, so 2 strands of fingering weight and then a strand of the mohair. And I used yarn from stash. I did not purchase new yarn to make this. I just went ahead and I wanted to find something that would be really fun for fall. So I enjoy some of those darker purple colors. I enjoy some of the golden mustards, and of course there's some pinks in there. And then gray. Gray is actually my favorite neutral. So I used a bunch of yarn dyers for this. There is some Maker's Haven yarn. There is some Hey Sister Yarn Company, Woolberry Fiber Co. I think this is a Madeline Tosh. So this is actually the only DK weight of skein. The rest was all fingering. And this turned out really, really cute. It's very, very cozy, like Cozy Up Knits. Very cozy, and I could see myself definitely making another one in a different color palette, but a really, really fun pattern. All right. So last week was my big finished object parade. I have one finished object for you this week. So started in this week and finished. This is the Spaid hat by Devin, Ventre of Knitty McPurly. So the Spaid hat, and it is knit in yarn, also by Knitty McPurly. It was a one-of-a-kind colorway. It's her worsted weight, so it's a worsted weight hat. And I enjoyed doing some cable work since I hadn't done cables in a while. And she named it Spaid because the decreases towards the top reminded her of a spade. And I just happened to have a coaster here with spades on there. I made this a long time ago, actually a set of card coasters for my grandparents because they were really big into playing cards with their friends. So it kind of tapers up into the point of the spade. So she named it the Spaid hat, but spelled differently, S-P-A-I-D. This was really fun to knit. I think I would like to knit it in a solid color sometime so I could see those cables better. I am so drawn to those speckled and variegated yarns, but I truly do know that the cables would really just pop in a solid color. The one thing, I don't know if I'd say this was challenging, but I will say it was time consuming. The ribbing is done in a knit through the back loop, purl through the back loop rib. And I had to look up that purl through the back loop. I'm like, I think I know how to do that. So that ribbing, and I did remember how to do that. So that ribbing was a little time consuming, and actually most of the stitches that you see in here, those are the twisted knit stitch or knit through the back loop. So you know, I do have a finished hat in a week, but I did think it was a little bit time consuming with those stitches. I am a thrower, and I just found that it was a little bit slow going, but still an enjoyable pattern, and I love cables. So I think that turned out really nice. It's probably going to go in my tote for gift knits. Not sure who that's going to be for, but maybe someone this Christmas. So that is my one finished object for this week. I do have a couple of half objects for this week. So the first half object I have is a sock. Isn't this yarn pretty? Oh, I love this yarn. This is a worsted weight sock. It is 2 strands of fingering weight yarn held together. The yarn is by the Woolen Homestead in the Life is the Bubbles colorway. The pattern, if you've been following me for a little while, you'll remember that I made a DK parrot weight of socks. And the pattern, it's Sock-a-Day sock pattern by Sarah Troia of Bumblebee Acre Farms. The sock pattern came with DK weight and worsted weight. So I did the DK weight. It turned out lovely. And so I wanted to try the 2 fingering weight because I have a lot of sock yarn. I have a lot of fingering weight skeins in my stash. So these certainly knit up faster than your traditional, you know, fingering weight sock, since this is a worsted weight. So I divided my skein of this yarn into 4 equal, and I'll just take this out. So 4 equal, it's kind of tangled in my bag, 4 equal balls of yarn, so approximately 25 grams of yarn. So holding those double, I knit the first sock. So this is for my second sock, which I haven't started, but two fingering weight balls. And from that first sock, this is what I have left. So that's not a lot, but some fun little scraps for a project, maybe my crochet blanket project or another project. So again, Woolen Homestead, I love her yarn. This color is so beautiful to me. I grew up in Michigan, actually on the west side, and wherever we drove, you know, we would see lakes. So this colorway just reminds me of Michigan and of water, and actually the Woolen Homestead is based in Michigan, but just the colors, the water, just I love it. I love it. So that is my first, or that is, yeah, the first of the pair of socks. So hopefully I will get started on the second one this week. And it did go pretty fast. All right, my next half object I am really excited about. Last week I told you that I had never knit a pair of mittens, and I was kind of intimidated to do that. And I really don't know why. I don't know what my hang up was, but I was a little nervous about knitting mittens, but I found the Tin Can Knits, the world's simplest mitten pattern, and it is very, very clear and precise. That pattern is written for 4 different weights of yarn: fingering weight yarn, DK weight yarn, worsted weight yarn, and chunky. So pretty much whatever yarn you wanted to use, you would have the pattern for a mitten. And so I used worsted weight yarn, and I have 1 mitten done, and I'm so happy with this. It was very easy to follow. I believe I made the adult medium, and the cuff is kind of long. I don't know, maybe I wouldn't need to make it quite that long, but I do like the idea of it tucking inside my coat. The yarn is Adalynne Rose Fibers. This is her worsted weight, and the color is Fun Dips, and it's really nice and squishy. It's a squishy, sturdy worsted weight yarn. This was really nice to knit with. I did this mitten on Magic Loop, but then when it came time for the thumb at the end. I wasn't sure exactly if I wanted to do magic loop, or I wasn't sure which would be easiest. Well, I don't know if I picked the easiest way. I thought double points. Well, this is the length of my size 7 double point needle that I needed for this pattern. So I think if I become a knitting knitter and want to use double points for that thumb, because I did like the idea of the double points for the thumb, I would probably try to invest in a shorter set of the double points, because it was a little finicky with those double points in this little circumference. So that was a little off, but I really enjoyed making this. This was so fun. I love the yarn. So fun and speckly. And I have not started the second one yet, but again, hope to get to that this week. Really enjoyed it, and I think, you know, I can see myself knitting more mittens in the future. I think I would still tackle some simple mittens, and I do appreciate a couple of you reached out about mittens and knitting and offered some words of encouragement, and even suggested a pattern for some fingerless mitts. I think I will stick to some basic knit and mitting before I delve into the world of color work knitting, which is what I really want to do on mittens, but just want to get this technique really solidified in my brain. So that is my first mitten. All right, works in progress. I actually started a new sock, and I'm sure you are going to be shocked to see that it's pink. No. And I don't only knit with pink yarn. You saw my blue sock. I do love the color pink, but you can see I do like a lot of different colors. I think I'm just maybe on a pink kick right now. But I started this sock yesterday. This pattern, I don't know if you can pick it out. It's the same pattern I just knit my rainbow shorties in. So this is the Wish You Were Here socks by the Kitchen Sink shop. And this is another gift knit that I have for an upcoming occasion this spring. So the yarn, the main color yarn is by the Lemonade shop. Let me just check the colorway. It's called Sugar Coated. And this was leftover yarn that I had. This is just for the first sock. I do have the other caked up for the second sock. This was yarn that I had originally used in my Chauncey sweater I wore a few episodes ago. So that Sugar Coated colorway is the color work in this sweater, and so I had some left over, and I thought it would make a fun pair of socks for the spring. So that's the main color. The mini is by, let's see, Camelot Dyeworks, and that's in the Siren colorway, so that bright, shocking hot pink colorway. I am doing this slightly different than I did the last pattern. The pattern gives instructions for your traditional heel, flap, and gusset, but I am doing I did a German short row heel, so I wanted to throw in that contrasting heel. So I will have the pink, bright pink for the cuff, and then for the heel, and then for the toe at the end. So that is the progress I made, which is really pretty good for working on that just yesterday, but I realized I needed to get going on a gift. So I started on that yesterday, and still really enjoying that pattern. My final, is that right? My final work in progress also started this week. I had shared with you that I wanted to knit a shawl. So I hadn't knit a shawl since January, when I did the mystery knit along with Cozy Up Knits for their mystery shawl in January. And so I hadn't knit a shawl since then. I had just finished up a couple of sweaters, so I thought I wanted to knit a shawl. And I had a couple patterns picked out. I did settle on the shawl pattern. It's called Grapefruit, and it's by Gabrielle Imbault, and it's the triangular shawl. So the other shawl was an asymmetrical shawl, which I still really like, and I probably will knit in the future. But this one, I guess, just kind of spoke to me right now. So this is a triangular shawl, and I guess I'll just show you what I have so far. So here it is. And I must confess, when I was knitting this in that bright pink, I'm like, oh my goodness, am I gonna look like a Barbie doll wearing those hot pink colors? I had Superstar Barbie in the 70s, and boy, her dress was a really hot pink, so it kind of reminded me of that. But if you remember last week, I was also toying with 2 different mohairs, a lighter pink mohair, and then one that was a little closer to this color, a darker shade. And a couple of you suggested the lighter, and I am very happy that I chose that. So the yarns that I am using, the bright pink is by, let's see, Fiber Me This in the Jaja colorway. And then the silk mohair is by Pineapple Yarns, and that's in the Fortunately Pink colorway. This shawl alternates between sections of garter and then lace and stockinette. So currently I am in the stockinette section with the mohair, and I have, maybe 10 more rows to go on this until I start this color again. So it alternates between the fingering weight yarn and the mohair weight yarn. So for 1 week, I am really happy with the progress on this. I think this will be a bright, fun shawl, probably for Valentine's Day, or a bright pop of color in the spring. I think this will be really fun. So yeah, I'm really excited to be working on that. Well, that brings me to the end of my knitting. So thank you so much for sharing some time with me today. I plan to be back with you next week, and we'll see the progress I get made on some of my works in progress, or what new knitting I get up to. I hope all of you had a happy Easter, and that you are enjoying your spring, or whatever season you have where you are. I hope that you are enjoying it. Have a great week with your creative things, your knitting, your crocheting, or whatever makes you happy. So take care, and I'll see you soon. Happy making. Bye-bye.